Welcome to Next Game's A Guide to Ninja series. In this episode, we will go over Magic Attack and Magic Burst gear sets. Now the Magic Attack gear set will help you to achieve your highest elemental ninjutsu damage. The Magic Burst gear set will help you achieve your highest elemental ninjutsu magic burst damage. If used properly, elemental ninjutsu and magic burst can add a sizable amount of damage to a ninja's DPS output, and come in especially handy on those mobs that have high physical resistance while having normal to low magical resistance. Many of the pieces of gear in these sets will each add a large amount of damage to each casting, which makes substitutions on most pieces difficult as they are so far ahead of the next closest option. I'll discuss some of the options as we go, but know that many of these pieces will add 1,000 to 3,000 damage each, so it's difficult to suggest anything else that would only give a tiny fraction of that boost. As we go along, I will give comparisons for how much damage these large pieces have added to the overall set, so that you know where the big gains are coming from. Now, just like all of our tests in this series thus far, our target will be against level 136 Apex bats. Now, obviously, if you're fighting much more difficult endgame content, it's possible your numbers will be a little lower than what you're about to see here, and if you're fighting even easier content, it's possible they'll definitely be higher. So you're definitely going to ask yourself, when is it worth it to use elemental ninjutsu over melee damage? And the best way to figure that out is, when fighting, pay attention to how much damage your ninjutsu is doing compared to the weapon skills that you're doing. Now normally, you will only want to focus on the elemental ninjutsu wheel if you are trying to limit TP gain, or if you are doing more than twice the damage to the enemy through a single ninjutsu casting than you could through a single weapon skill. Now if this is the case, you will want to follow the usual rotation of Hyoten, Katen, Suten, Reitan, Dotan, and then Huten, and then going back to Hyoten to continue that rotation. Doing so will continually lower the resistance of the mob to the next casting that you're about to use, making sure that you have the least chance possible to get resisted. Now I prefer to use sand spells, but with these having a 1 second less casting time and only roughly 1,000 less in damage, one could also make a strategy to use them instead in an attempt to get more castings off over time and increase the DPS that way. Obviously the choice is yours into which method you use. Now next, the question is, when is it worth it to use Magic Burst? Well, when you're solo, I pretty much find it's always useful to Magic Burst. I usually follow the rule of thumb though, that if my Magic Burst is doing more damage than my weapon skill, then it's worth it for me to work that into my self-skill chain rotation. If, however, it's one of those situations where the mob has the opportunity to absorb the damage, or is doing less than my weapon skill, then I'll normally just stick to a self-skill chain spam rotation and just ignore the Magic Burst altogether. Now when you're in a party setup, it gets a little more complicated, and this is going to be more situational as to whether your group has a solid skill chain rotation. If it does, then a ninja can add a sizable amount of damage here, even if they aren't a part of that skill chain rotation. However, if a clear skill chain rotation isn't formed, then it's best to ignore attempts to Magic Burst in this situation, as it usually just leads to lots of frustration when people will weapon skill right before your Magic Burst goes off, or you will spend so much time waiting to Magic Burst that your melee DPS will suffer substantially. Now that we've talked about when to use these gear sets, let's go ahead and talk about the individual pieces in them. The first piece we'll talk about is the ammo slot. Now the ammo slot is one area where little damage is added to either setup. All three options are fairly close together in regards to damage output at this time, but once Odyssey allows you to augment the two Unity pieces, I'm hopeful that it will be with stats that will complement this set. Now as odd as it sounds, the current best in slot option is the Ghastly Tathlum +1, and that's even if you have the lowest Unity ranking bonus of +2. Now I know most will only think of Magic Attack or Intelligence when it comes to increasing their overall ninjutsu elemental damage, and they think that magic damage itself won't increase it that much. Now it is definitely true that if you're going to compare, let's say, 5 magic damage to 5 magic attack bonus, you're definitely going to want the 5 magic attack bonus. But when we have 11 magic damage on this, plus that 2 to 6 intelligence, it happens to be enough to make this give us higher numbers, just by a few, than our next two closest options. Sadly, it does not have any magic accuracy on this piece, so how it does produce the highest numbers, there are pieces that are more reliable in regards to overall damage. Hopefully, this piece will get augmented in the future with magic accuracy and Odyssey, which will make it the default best piece. Now the next piece we'll talk about, and the one that you'll see me using most frequently in this set, is the Pamphredo Tathlum. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 4, an intelligence bonus of 4, and a magic accuracy boost of 8. You can get it off of Sarsok in Rezenma. Now if you use this over the Tathlon +1, you're going to lose 15 to 30 damage on each of your knee and sand castings. However, that magic accuracy +8 is definitely going to help you to make sure that you're not getting resisted on any of those, and if you're fighting any kind of challenging content, this is definitely going to pull out ahead because of that accuracy boost. The last piece we'll talk about is the Seething Bomblet +1. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 7. You get it off of the Grand Grenade in Unity. Now you're going to lose 25 to 30 damage on each of your knee and sand castings over the Ghastly Tathlon +1. But this is another one of those pieces that in the future may be modified through Odyssey, and that augments on it if they're maybe intelligence or some magic accuracy or even some more magic attack bonus may make this the best in slot in the future. So keep an eye on these pieces, but right now there's definitely 3 solid pieces that are all relatively close to each other when it comes to damage. The next slot we'll go over is the head slot. Here we have a single clear winner that adds a tremendous amount of damage to ninjutsu, and it's the Mochizuki Hatsuburi +3. Now this piece can be upgraded through Dynamis D, and it will give you a magic attack bonus of 61, a ninjutsu damage bonus of 21, which just gets added onto that magic attack bonus for a total of 82 magic attack bonus, and then additionally 32 intelligence. Now if you use this piece over nothing else, it's going to add 1750 damage to your sand spells, and 6800 damage to your magic burst. So it just goes to show you how important this piece is in the overall setup. It's definitely one of those pieces that will make or break you in regards to your magic attack damage. Next we'll move on to the next slot. Here's another area where there is limited real damage to be gained, but we do have a clear winner and a backup option in case you don't have that. The clear winner is the Beidou Pendant, which gives us a magic attack bonus of 13. You can get this off the Warder of Love in Eshin Ruan. Now, if you don't have that piece yet, you could get a Satlada necklace. This will give you a magic damage boost of 10, and intelligence boost of 6. You can acquire this from the Waking the Beast 2 HTMB fight. Now if you use this over the pendant, you will lose 15 to 25 damage with knee and sand spells, and about 37 magic burst damage overall. And remember, these are doing anywhere from 10 to 20,000 damage with these numbers, so therefore this really is a drop in the bucket in comparison to the overall damage. The last one I'll throw out there is the Sanctity Necklace. It'll give you a magic attack bonus of 10, and most importantly a magic accuracy bonus of 10, so this will help you not get resisted if you're having some difficulties with that. You can get off Zurum for 100 domain invasion points. Now taking magic accuracy out of the equation, you're going to lose 50 to 60 damage on your knee and sand spells by using this, and almost 80 damage on your magic burst damage. So you're definitely going to take a hit, but if you are having problems getting resisted, this is going to help out in that arena and make sure that your overall numbers are better. Next, we're going to go over earrings. This is the first slot where we have a different piece for our magic burst set than in our magic attack set. First earring we'll talk about is the Friamzi earring. This is the magic attack bonus of 10, and you can get it off the auction house for 300 to 500,000 gil. The second best in slot is the Crimadio earring. You can get this from Divine Might 2, and it boosts a magic attack bonus of 6 and a magic damage bonus of 6. Now this can be a rather difficult piece to obtain, so if you don't have it yet, you can replace it with the Novio earring. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 7. You can get this off Absolute Virtue or get it from someone's bazaar. Now you're going to lose 10 to 15 damage with knee and sand by using this over the Crimadio earring, and you're going to lose about 24 MB damage. However, obviously it's much easier to obtain. Now when it comes to magic burst damage, I suggest you don't use either of those two options, and instead use a static earring. This will increase your magic burst damage by 5%. You can get this from the old mission called Apocalypse Nigh. Next, we're going to go over the body slot. This has several options, but there is a clear best in slot winner. Now sadly, it's probably the rarest piece in both of these sets, so I will offer some good alternatives to it. Now the best in slot piece is this Give doublet. You'll get it from Dawn 2. It will give you a magic attack bonus of 42 and an intelligence bonus of 39. Now sadly, I have over 200 runs of this Dawn 2, and I still have not seen it drop. So please understand that it is ultra rare. So it's definitely not something you're going to get if you're just going to try and spend an afternoon on it. However, if you want the best in slot piece for magic attack set, this is definitely it. Now if you don't have the Give doublet yet, the piece I recommend you get is the Rawhide vest. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 25 and an intelligence boost of 25, and if you use Path A, an additional intelligence boost of 7. You can get this from Eshin Zita off the NM Vidala. Now there is one other piece that could in theory beat the Rawhide Vest, but not the Geeve Doublet, and that is the Herculean Vest with some specific augments on it. Now it natively has an intelligence of 21 on it, but in theory you could get a magic attack of 35, a magic accuracy of 35, and an intelligence boost of 10 to add to that 21. Now I've tried over 2,000 attempts to get this vest, and I've never come anywhere even close. I got magic attack plus 31 once, so it really should tell you just how rare and difficult this piece is. And if you ever get that Geeve Doublet, it's not even going to be useful. So I recommend you don't even waste your time with it. Spend your time with the Rawhide Vest until you happen to get your hands on that Geeve Doublet. Now if you are magic bursting, there is a different body piece you want to use entirely, and that is the Samnua Coat. Now this will give you a magical attack bonus of 20, a magical accuracy bonus of 23, an intelligence boost of 20, and if you get the max augments, an additional 15 magic attack and 15 magic accuracy. Additionally, this will boost your magic burst damage by 8%. You can get this off of Theodore in Sinister Reign. Let's move on to the hands, where we have two options for our magic attack gear set and one clear winner when it comes to our magic burst gear set. For a magic attack gear set, the best in slot I recommend is the Lee-Line gloves. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 15, a magic accuracy bonus of 18, and an intelligence boost of 12. Additionally, with max augments, you get a magic attack bonus of 15 and another magic accuracy boost of 15. You can get this from Sinister Reign, from fighting Arcelia and Yignis. Now, you can in theory beat this if you get the Herculean gloves, which come with intelligence 14 on them already. And then the augments you're shooting for are magic attack plus 35, magic accuracy plus 35, intelligence plus 10, and this is very much like the body piece in that I have over 2,000 attempts to try and make something close to these augments, and I haven't even gotten close. Therefore, I've chosen to just kind of give up and stick with my Lee-Line gloves. But know that if you're really trying to get the most out of your magic attack gear set, there is some extra damage to be eked out here if you really want to try for these augments. You can get the Herculean gloves from Rezenma off Taloth the Dire Maw, or spend 800 domain invasion points on them. Now, for our magic bursting gear set, we're also going to use Herculean gloves, and this is where I would recommend you spend your time. Now, these again have an intelligence boost of 14 on them, but you can also augment them with 8% magic burst damage increase, which will definitely help out with that magic burst damage. In addition to that, you're hoping that you get as high possible stats as possible in regards to magic attack, magic accuracy, and intelligence. You can get 25, 25, and 10 on them respectively at their max augments when you're shooting for that magic burst damage plus 8%. Now let's briefly talk about augmenting this piece. It is extremely important that you try and keep all of these stats as high as possible so that you get the biggest boost from this piece as possible. So what this means is, just because you have magic burst damage plus 8% doesn't necessarily make this a great piece to use. You definitely want to have magic attack, magic accuracy, and intelligence on it as well to make it truly a well-rounded piece. So for instance, a piece that just had magic burst damage plus 8% on it would be easily bested by a magic burst damage plus 6% piece that has magic attack 25 and intelligence plus 10 on it. So please keep this in mind when you're going for the best augments you can achieve. Now for the ring slot, we have 3 possible options for a magic attack and 2 solid best in slot options for our magic burst gear set. Now the best in slot option is the Metamorph Ring plus 1. This will give you an intelligence boost of 6 and a magic accuracy boost of 1 to 5 depending on your Unity ranking. Now additionally, once you augment it through Odyssey, it'll give you an additional 10 intelligence and magic accuracy will go up by 10 as well. Now pairing with this, I suggest you use the Shiva Ring plus 1. This will give you an intelligence boost of 9 and a magic attack boost of 3. You can usually get this in the auction house for roughly 6 million gil. Now if you can't afford that, or don't have it yet, you can also substitute it with a Dinger Ring. This will give you a magic attack bonus of 10. You can get this off of Omen by fighting Jin. Now the comparison of these 2 rings is definitely something I wanted to touch upon during this video because it is interesting, and what we see here is that adding magic attack or intelligence is not universal for both Ni and San. And what I mean by that is Ni responds very well to magic attack bonus. If you pile that on, that number is going to go up much more than if you stack any of your other traits. However, Sand responds very well to intelligence, and if you stack it on, it will actually go up much more dynamically than it will if you stacked on magic attack bonus, as is evident by these two rings. So therefore, just know that if you're really trying to increase your sand damage, try and lean on the side of intelligence more than anything. And if you're really trying to increase your knee damage, then focus more on that magic attack bonus stat. Let's go ahead and move on to our magic burst ring options, as we will need to change both of our rings for our magic burst gear set. The two magic burst rings do the same thing, and that is they both add 5% to our magic burst damage total. The first one is the Mugen Band, and you can simply get this off the auction house for 200 to 700,000 gil. The second ring is the Locust Ring. You can get this off Taxit in Cizek Battlegrounds. Through the gear thus far, we have now added 26 to 28% to our magic burst damage. Now it is important that we do not focus on this trait alone, as it's all the other intelligence, magic attack, and magic damage buffs that boost up the initial stat to make these all very effective. On to the back slot. Now this is an easy one as there's only one choice, but I did want to use this as an example to show another way that knee and sand spells respond differently to int, magic attack, and even magic damage stats. So we have our Andartius Mantle that I suggest you have an intelligence boost of 20 on it, magic accuracy boost of 20, magic damage boost of 20, and a magic attack bonus of 10. For the last stat, use that die to get an intelligence boost of 10. This is going to be your best in slot mantle. However, if you change that last bonus and instead of getting the intelligence plus 10, get a magic damage plus 10, an interesting thing happens. Your knee damage stays literally the same. I mean, to the exact point, it stays the same. It does not change. I had to keep checking to make sure it was actually changing to the right cape, and sure enough it was. It just, the damage had not changed. However, the sand damage goes down by 67. Now this obviously makes that first option the best in slot, but it does show you just exactly how these two types of spells respond differently to the three different stat types. The next slot we're going to talk about is the waist slot, and this is another area that has a huge amount of damage with a single piece for both magic attack and magic burst gear sets, and that is through the use of the Orpheus Sash. Now this will increase your elemental attacks by 15% if you are within 1.93 distance of the target. You can acquire this by using your Mars orbs that you get each month, or by spending 200 to 300 million on the auction house depending on what server you're on. Now this will by itself add 1,000 damage to your knee and sand spells, and 3,000 magic burst damage. Obviously if you can't use this, there is a Sky Mirror Cord plus 1 that has magic accuracy 7, magic attack bonus 7, magic damage 35. Now I don't own this, it's quite expensive, but if you happen to have it, it's definitely going to be better than the Eshin Stone, which is your next option that you can just get from Eshin Zeta off Urmalu. That'll give you a magic accuracy bonus of 7 and a magic attack bonus of 7. But really, both will pale completely in comparison to the Orpheus Sash in regards to the damage boost you're going to get. So really start working towards that sash if you can, and if you're serious about getting the most out of your elemental ninjutsu damage. When it comes to the leg slot, there is a single best in slot option for both magic attack and magic burst gear sets. The magic attack option is the Kiev Trousers. This will boost your magic attack bonus by 40 and your intelligence by 35. You can get this from the Dawn 2 HTMB. Now for your magic burst gear set, you want the Herculean Trousers. You can get this from Selkit and Rezenma, and they come with an intelligence boost of 29 on them automatically. However, what you're going for is the augments that you can get on these, very similar to the hand augment you got. Magic burst damage of 8%, magic attack 25, magic accuracy of 25, and an intelligence boost of 10. You want to get as close to those stats as possible in one single augment. Last, we're going to talk about the feet slot. Now for the feet slot, there is a single option that is the best for both gear sets, just like with the head. This is another piece that can itself add a tremendous amount of damage to your setup. The Mochitsuki Kaihan plus 3. Along with the 5 levels into magic attack bonus, this will give you a 25% boost to your ninjutsu damage as a separate multiplier than magic attack bonus. What that all translates to is a boost of about 1,500 damage to your magical attacks, and about 4,000 damage to your magic burst. So this is definitely one of the best ways to add damage to your setup. You can upgrade it to this level through Dynamis D. Now if you don't happen to have these yet, you could use the Hachiya Kaihan plus 3 for a limited time. You would think that it's intelligence plus 20, magic attack bonus plus 23, and Magic Burst damage plus 10% would be enough to keep up with the Mochizuki Kaihan plus 3. But sadly, you are already at 38% Magic Burst damage, and it caps at 40, so you're really only going to take advantage of about 2% of this Magic Burst damage. Due to that, these boots will perform very similarly to what you see there on the left-hand side in regards to 1500 damage less on Elemental and Jitsu spells, and 4000 damage less on Magic Burst. The last piece of armor I'll talk about is situational. It's the Hattori Teko plus 1. Now these gloves won't help you unless you are using Fute, but they can add a sizable amount of damage to your Fute attacks. I can achieve 3000 more damage in my Magic Burst when Fute is used if I use these over Augmented Hurt gloves. Now for stats, they have Elemental Ninjutsu damage plus 14%, which actually ends up translating to Magic Attack bonus plus 14, so this doesn't have anywhere near as much as the Li-Line gloves. But it does increase your Fute damage by 24%, which is enough to allow it to overpower the Augmented Hurt gloves when it comes to Magic Burst. They also tout an intelligence boost of 12. If you are not Magic Bursting, I do not recommend using these, as the Li-Line gloves will actually end up overpowering their stats with all of its additional Magic Attack bonus that it has on it. So definitely only use these if you are Magic Bursting. Now, before we go into the real-life examples of what these two gear sets will give you in regards to damage numbers on Apex bats, let's talk about the most important thing of both of these two gear sets, the weapons. If you do not have the correct 2 weapons equipped when you're casting your ninjutsu spells, none of those damage numbers we've been talking about are really going to matter. For instance, if you use all the gear I just spoke of, and instead of using the 2 katanas I'm using in the video, meaning the Gokatai and the Tourette, and instead used 2 katanas that do not have any magic damage boost on them, our Magic Burst damage will drop from the 30,000 to 33,000 range, all the way down to 7,000 to 9,000 damage. You will lose over 20,000 damage by just using the wrong katanas. So that's why I needed to emphasize this specifically. You have got to have katanas with magic damage bonus on them. Otherwise, none of this will work. Now when it comes down to which katanas, some are slightly better than others, but in general, they're all on pretty close to the same level when it comes to this magic damage boost. Let's go ahead and discuss the katana options so it's very clear which ones you should and should not be using. Now without a doubt, the best 2 weapons in this slot are the Gokatai and the Tourette. Both of these are ambuscade weapons, and will give you a boost to your magical damage of 217. They'll also give you a boost to your magical attack of 16, and in the case of Gokatai, give you a 15 intelligence boost. Additionally, they will give you 290 magic accuracy each, really helping you to make sure that you don't get resisted. Know that if you don't have the pulse weapons that are needed to upgrade these weapons to this level, you can use the Kaja version of these weapons, and they're almost as good and better than all these other options I'm about to present. So know that that's almost as good of an option if you don't happen to have those pulse weapons. Now right behind the Gokatai and Tourette in regards to elemental ninjutsu damage is the Fudo Masamune. This will give you that same 217 magic damage boost that you get from the Gokatai and Tourette, but sadly it is missing the 16 magical attack, and in the case of the Gokatai, the 15 intelligence. However, it does have 15 more magic accuracy on it than those other 2 options, which makes it overall a better option if you are in any way concerned about getting resisted. Now the rest of the weapons we're going to discuss are either SU4 weapons or Rima weapons. All of these have some level of magic damage on them that is 186 or above, so it's close to the 217 number that we're getting on the first 3 that we mentioned, but not quite there. This means all of these are going to be roughly 3,000 to 4,000 damage less with our maximum magic burst potential than if we went with a Gokatai Tourette or a Fudo Masamune Tourette combination. However, the extra melee damage output from those Rima weapons definitely makes him a strong candidate if you want to be putting out the most damage possible. This means in regards to damage output, the Koga Shinobi Katana, the Hishi Shiroken, the Kanagi, the Kikoku, and the Nagi will all put out roughly the same damage output in regards to your magic burst. The Mochizuki Shinobi Katana will actually put out a little bit better damage output than the rest of them because it has 15 more magic damage on it. That being said, I definitely would prefer to have one of the Rima weapons over that Mochizuki item. The combination I most often go with is a Hishi Shuriken in my main hand, paired with a Tourette or a Fuda Masamune in my offhand. This makes sure that I'm definitely at the high end of what my magic burst potential could be, and also allows me to put out the most damage through weapon skills and skill chains as possible. The Hishi Shuriken's aftermath also helps with your MB damage, which ends up putting it a little bit ahead of the other options in regards to the Rima weapons. Okay, now that we've discussed all of the weapons that you should be using when you're trying to reach your full magic burst potential, let's go ahead and discuss some of the options that you should not be using that I most frequently hear people try and use in this situation. The first and most obvious is the Ochu. Now the Ocho touts a magic damage boost of 108, a magic attack boost of 14, an intelligence boost of 12, and a magic burst damage boost of 13%. So basically what we're swapping here between our Gokatai is we're swapping 100 and some magic damage for that 13% magic burst damage. Now you would think that that 13% boost to your magic burst damage is easily going to overwhelm all the damage that Gokatai could do. Sadly, that is just not the case. If you choose to use the Ochu instead of the Gokatai or Tourette in that offhand, it's going to be about 3,000 damage worse for your magic burst. If you combine that with the fact that you might be using a Rima in your main hand, you've now lowered your magic burst potential from 30 to 33,000 to 20 to 23,000 in our case of the Apex bats. Now that is a substantial hit you've taken just to try and use that Ochu. So when I say this is a katana you don't want to use these days, it really isn't. So please just ignore the Ochu and go ahead and work on those ambuscade weapons and you'll end up in a much better spot. Now the only other two weapons we'll talk about is the Chidori, which will give you a magic damage boost of 95, and the Tancho +1 with Augment through Odyssey, which has recently given us a magic attack bonus boost of 20. Now I just wanted to talk about both these because I've been asked about whether or not these would compare to the other options presented. The answer is no. They're not even close. They're 5,000 to 6,000 damage, if not more, lower than the other options presented. So I wouldn't even consider these and kind of put them in the same realm or a similar realm of all the other katanas that in no way help your magic burst damage. Now as part of the video, I'll go ahead and show you a demonstration of how these two gear sets perform. Just a few quick notes. First off, I don't have that Give doublet yet, so our elemental ninjutsu damage would be substantially higher when we had that. In regards to our magic burst gear set, I'm actually missing 3 magic attack off of the Semnua coat, and additionally, my hands are missing 2% magic burst damage. I'm also missing a handful of intelligence and magic attack that I could have on both my hands and my Herc pants. So there definitely is a little bit more damage to eke out here if you wanted to really go for it. In this first example, I'm really trying to show you just how important those weapons are. In this example, we're using the entire magic burst and magic attack gear sets that we just went over. The only difference is, for the weapons, we're using a Canaria and an Achu, which is adding no damage to our magic burst. As you can see, our sands are doing around 3,000 damage, and our knees are doing around 2,000 damage. Let's go ahead and see what our magic burst does here with this set. Ouch. 8,300 sand and 5,600 knee. Obviously that is pitiful, and we might as well just be weapon skilling as opposed to wasting our time magic bursting at those numbers. Now what we are going to do is swap in on my Hishi and a Tourette, my favorite combination. Let's go ahead and see what our sand does now. So our sands have gone from 3,000 to 8,600 damage, an increase of over 5,500. And our knees have gone from 2,000 to 7,600, so an increase of over 5,500 again. Let's go ahead and see what our magic bursts are doing now that all we've done is simply add 2 different weapons. Our magic bursts have now gone from less than 9,000 damage up to almost 27,000 by simply adding weapons. As you can see, our knee damage is also up to 24,000 now by simply adding those weapons. I cannot emphasize enough, this set will not work without the correct weapon slotted. The next example I'm going to show you is when we have the Gokatai and Tourette equipped. This should be our highest potential damage output. Let's see how it goes. As you can see with this set, we're hitting that 30,000 number that we're expecting to hit, and with knee, we're hitting the 27,000 number that we're expecting to hit. Those are about the numbers that you should expect to most frequently hit on Apex bats. Is 30,000 for your sands and 27,000 for your knees. Now let's go ahead and see what the regular elemental ninjutsus get. Looks like knee got us 8,500, and sand got us 9,640. Again, right where they should be, somewhere between 8,500 and 9,000 for knee, and 9,500 and 10,000 for sand. Now there is one last thing I want to show you, and that is we haven't added in our Fute gloves yet. And with that, we'll actually definitely boost our damage even higher if we choose to use Fute along with those Hattori gloves. So let's go ahead and see what numbers we can achieve when we use that setup. I've gone ahead and loaded my gear swap file that is specific for this. Let's see how it works. And there we go, it looks like 51,232 damage, and we're still getting our almost 27,000 damage of knee. Now one thing I will point out is that 51,000 damage is actually a little lower than I'm expecting in some of my other tests. In most of my tests it hit for somewhere between 53 and 55,000. But in any effect, that's about what you can expect to achieve when you're using Fute with the Fute gloves on these. And that should be my last example. I hope people have found this video helpful in regards to how it is you can enhance your elemental ninjutsu and magic burst damage. My next video in this series will be going over Langley's spreadsheet. Everyone stay safe and stay healthy.